Duchess, and today we're going to work on my Southern squash casserole. This recipe actually was something that I learned from my best friend's family growing up in Tullahoma, Tennessee. My dear friend Evelyn Allen Deriso, her mom actually used to make this for dinner and I loved it. So this is a take on that recipe, and it's sort of evolved over the years, but the thing that stayed the same is the squash and the down-home cooking and the soul food and how it makes you feel so good after you eat it. So with that said, let's get started. So I have just a traditional yellow crickneck squash, and I've cut it. I cut the ends off and then cut it in half, because one of the biggest injuries you have in the kitchen is cutting yourself with a knife, which I've done many times. So it's better to create a flat surface with whatever it is that you're working with. So I'm just going to cut that in half. Okay, you don't want your vegetables rolling around. Okay, so I'm going to cut that in half, and then I'm going to slice them into about 1/2-inch pieces. I don't know if you can see that, right? Yeah, so about 1/2-inch pieces. Don't make them too small, right? You want to be able to pick out the vegetable in your casserole. Okay, I'm just going to finish this up. 4 pounds of yellow squash, okay? Now, if you prefer a different kind of squash, then use that kind of squash, okay? So 4 pounds. So I have 4 carrots. It's about 2 cups of carrots. I don't use frozen carrots, but if you wanted to dice them, you could dice them if you prefer that shape, if you want smaller bites. And these, again, they're certainly not half inch. That'd be too thick for a carrot. They're about 1/4 inch, maybe. Okay, one more. Okay, one more quarter. Just run your knife through it, and that's that. So that's your carrot. I have 2 onions, and I'm just going to peel the skin off this onion. Okay, I'm going to show you one of my favorite little tricks. If you don't know how to do this already, you will be happy about this. Now, 2 tricks about onions. One is, if you don't like for your eyes to tear up, if you take a wet paper towel, the thing that releases that makes your eyes water, I'm not going to get into all that, will be attracted to the water. So if you just have like a wet towel or something on your cutting board, that's fine. Second tip, I'm going to run my knife down the middle, and then I'm going to pull it through the center, working carefully, and then this is going to make the perfect diced sections. Okay, so I'm not having to struggle with my onion, and I love that trick. It makes it so easy, and I'm done. So I have about 4 cups of diced yellow onion. So that's that. So those are all sliced up. So we're going to move on to the next section. So get your station cleaned up, and I'll meet you back here in a second. All right. Okay, let's move on. So I have my giant Dutch oven. I'm going to turn the heat on. And the next step is going to be starting with, take my ring off, sauteing pork sausage. So I have 2 pounds for this recipe. So basically, if it's 4 pounds of squash, you can do the math, for 20 people, then it's 2 pounds of pork. So if you're going to cut that recipe in half, just do 2 pounds of squash, 1 pound of pork sausage. Now, this stuff is a Southerner's must-have, right? We cook with this stuff all the time. Adds so much flavor. Now, I'm not going to use this in everything, right? I'm going to use it sparingly, because it can be overpowering. So we don't want every dish to be really heavy. This dish certainly is decadent. So, little pork sausage. If you don't care for pork sausage, then don't use it. You don't have to use sausage at all. You could just use some butter or olive oil to saute your veggies in. So you just skip this step. It's totally fine. You don't have to have it. It just depends on what flavors you like. So you start to hear that sizzle. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just crumbling this up. I'm gonna let it cook for a little bit. Before it starts to turn brown, we're gonna come back. So go ahead and get your sausage going, okay? Keep it stirring, you know, let it cook, stir it up, let it cook, stir it up. Break it up. You want it to be kind of crumbly, not giant chunks of sausage. So get that going, and then we'll meet back here and we'll move on. Hi, a quick video just to show you what it's looking like. I think that's really helpful. Okay. All right, so you see it's starting to, I don't really want it to stick. I mean, those bits are nice, but we want to keep it kind of nice and loose, okay? So as it cooks, hey Daniel, as it cooks, we're going to keep it moving around, okay? So that's about halfway there. So while I'm here, good, while I'm here, I'm going to add, I'm going to sneak off camera for a second. About a tablespoon. I roasted this garlic. I know some of you saw it on my social media account. I roasted this garlic, a whole batch of it. I think it was like 9 cloves or something. Just a couple days ago, actually, maybe on Friday or something. So I have that going. And now I'm going to add, everybody's coming in, oh, this is a brand new thing, about a tablespoon of thyme. And before I put it in, I'm going to wake it up. This is a great tip. Dried herbs in general, I'm going to wake it up and I'm just going to put it in. Now, and I can smell that garlic, and that's perfect. Now I'm going to really turn the heat down now. Okay, I'm going to grab my onions first. I'm going to drop these in, and I'm going to saute these with the pork sausage and start with that. So I'm going to get this mixed in. No need to add any extra oil. The sausage has you covered there, okay? So there's no reason to do that at all. So I'm going to turn this heat back up, okay? Get this going. This will probably take about 5 minutes maybe. So I'll meet you back here in a minute, okay? All right. There they are. See, it's all married and mixed together. There it is. So they're not browning. Okay, they're just nice and translucent, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna add in my carrots. And these are gonna take a little bit longer to cook. So I'm gonna mix these in, and I'm actually gonna add in a little bit of water, okay? Just to get them going. So if you have a pitcher of water, probably gonna add about a cup, 2 cups of water for this recipe. And I'm going to get it up so it's nice and hot. Also, this is going to be the first time I salt, so I'm using kosher salt. I have a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to let this go. I'm actually going to cover it and let it cook for a couple minutes, at least 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. I want those carrots to be nice and tender, but I don't want them to be mushy. And that's the goal. Look how beautiful that's starting to look. And the carrots really do pop. And they have such nice flavor, such a nice bright flavor with the squash. So go ahead, let that cook for about 5+ minutes, and we'll meet back here and add in our squash. Okay. Squash, 4 pounds of squash. This is why I have this giant, humongous Dutch oven. I'm gonna dump those all in just like that. Remember, they are about 1/2 inch thick. We do not want these to get soggy, okay? So it's 3 stages of the cooking process, and we're gonna take our time. It's one of those things that you can do and be working on something else while it's cooking in the background. The squash, I just want you to see how much water is releasing from the squash. That is a lot of water. Now it was a lot of squash, but see how my squash is still staying intact? That's what we're wanting. So when you're stirring it, Try to be really gentle. Get up underneath it just so you can move it around. You don't want the bottom to burn. I have the heat running really high on this right now because I'm trying to get that water to cook out of there. So I have to pay attention to it when I'm doing that. But this is what you want, okay? That's what you're going to see. And this is why, and this is a tip, this is why you don't just throw uncooked squash in the casserole dish and then bake it, because you will never cook out all the water and then you just end up with a soggy, mushy mess. So I'm going to let this cook for a few more minutes, just allowing the water to cook out of it, lid off, and then we'll meet back here to do our cheddar sauce that will be mixed in with it, and it's so ooey gooey delicious. Yeah. All right, we're back. The squash is done. It looks perfect, and I just want you to see the difference between how much what it was and how much water is cooked out. Okay, so you can see that, right? I'm gonna turn my heat off. See how that squash has stayed intact? Oh, that's perfect. I'm pretty proud of myself. I should be proud of myself. So see those juices? Those are fine. Those will get soaked up with some of the other things that are going to go in here, okay? But that is, that's perfect. So, little squash, little onion, little carrot, pork, sausage, thyme, salt to taste. We don't want to salt too much because the cheese that's going in there has salt. And cooking with some TLC. All right. I have a sauce pot, big sauce pot, Dutch oven, whatever you want to call it. This is cast iron, but you can use regular pot, totally fine. I'm gonna put in first a couple tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of butter. So I'm just breaking up my butter because it'll melt faster. I love these pots. Cast iron is my favorite thing to cook in, but I also have something called a scan pan. It's a Scandinavian company. It makes professional grade pans that I love, and it cooks really evenly. It's very durable. So my non-stick is a scan pan. So, okay, so I put in a 1/4 cup of flour, and I'm just gonna let it brown. Here it is, okay. I put in a 1/4 cup of flour, and I'm just gonna let it brown up. There's nothing, you don't want the flour to be raw, okay? So the butter is gonna help cook that. See, it's starting to sizzle. So we're gonna wait for that to turn brown. It only takes a couple of minutes. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to talk through the cheese. So we have 4 cups of cheddar, sharp cheddar cheese. You can also use Irish cheddar cheese, which is absolutely delicious. It's just not the right flavor for some of the things that I'm making for Thanksgiving. So sharp cheddar cheese, 4 cups for 4 pounds of squash. But if you're doing maybe 2 pounds of squash for 10 people, then it'd just be 2 cups of cheddar cheese. So you just have to convert your recipe. This is 2 cups of Parmesan, shredded Parmesan cheese. And I get the pre-shredded Parmesan cheese for this because I actually like for it to hold its shape just a little bit. And then this is 2 blocks of cream cheese. This is the secret ingredient. Right, I'm actually going to turn this heat way down. That's really important. See how brown that is now? That's exactly what we want. So I need both hands for this. I'm going to add in a little bit of milk and start to stir really fast. Actually, I'm going to turn my heat completely off. Add. Now, if you don't want to use milk, you could use chicken broth. It ends up being like a gravy. But you could if you're lactose or trying nut milk. I've never tried one. But that certainly could go. All right, let me see if I can do this with my left hand. This is talent, y'all. I'm saying I should get a special work of this. Okay, so see that consistency? Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Okay, let's try a little more milk. I've turned that heat off too. So this is now about 1.5 cups of milk that's in there. And I want to whisk that in because we don't want it to be lumpy. You see that? Okay, that's good. I'm going to put another half cup of milk in, so 2 cups of milk total. There it is. Yep. And voila. Okay, I'm going to turn my heat back on. Medium to medium high heat, and we'll do the close-up video. We'll do one more, okay? So that's cooking. That's cooking up the storm. All right, while that's doing its thing, I'm going to move this over here, okay? I am going to get, oh, it's over here, dried mustard. Yes, dried mustard. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of dried mustard. Okay, and I'm going to put it in the milk, mix this better. Okay, so I'm going to get that in there. So if there are other seasonings that you really like, maybe you don't want to try the dried mustard, that's totally fine. If you want to put some nutmeg in here, that would be good. That's when you'd add those seasonings. So I'm going to let this come up to boil. It's kind of the waiting game at this point. It only took a couple minutes, maybe not even. So you see that consistency? It's kind of frothy, isn't it? And that's what we want. We don't want something as thick as a gravy. We just want to keep it nice and loose because it's going to feel more like a fondue. So that is our cream sauce. Now, I have this turned way down low, and first I'm going to add in my cheddar cheese. We're going to do the cheeses in stages, okay, because we want to let them melt. So this is also sort of a waiting game process. We don't want it to be too thick to start off with, because anytime that you add something to the stove and it's cold, you have to allow this what's in the pot to come back up to temperature again. See how that cheddar cheese is nice and creamy? Oh, that's lovely. That's what we're looking for. We're going to drop in the cream cheese. This would be next. And this is just going to take a second to melt up. Again, but we want to let it fully melt and marry up with the cheddar cheese before we add our Parmesan. Because when we add the Parm, we're going to actually turn the heat off. Here it is. Okay. Here is the cream cheese. See how it's marrying up? And see that? Yeah, that's the consistency that we're looking for. And so now I'm going to fold this in. 2 cups. Now you can see why Ian loves this recipe so much. Right, babe?
Oh, yeah.
He loves it. All right. So that's what we're looking for. And we're just going to sit this to the side. Okay, we're on to the last stage. We have our cooked squash mixture, and we have our cheese sauce, our bechamel sauce. And I'd like to show you a close-up really quickly of what that looks like. Okay, so there's our squash. Just a reminder, see the amount of liquid that's there? That's what you're looking for. Everything's still intact, beautifully mixed. And then here's our cream sauce. Mine thickened up a little bit while it was sitting, so I just added a little bit of milk and just stirred it in. And it just loosened it up a little bit. So if you are unhappy with the consistency of the cream sauce, or you feel like it's a little thick, then you can easily just add a little bit of milk to it, and that'll loosen it up. And that's for any cream sauce. Okay, so I'm gonna actually mix this in a bowl. I'm gonna start with my, actually I'm gonna pull it up here. That doesn't seem too wise. I'm gonna end up with squash everywhere. So I'm gonna do about half of this to start with. And it smells so wonderful. And again, I'm being very careful with the squash, not wanting to be too rough with it, wanting to keep it all so it's nicely intact. Oh, Ozzy's looking to be fed right now, which you can see him. He's so darn cute and very needy. He's a lot of work, but we love him. We love all our fur babies. Okay, here's the cream sauce. I'm actually gonna pull this out. Oh, there's Buster. Everybody's going. Everybody's talking. That's our 5-pound dog, Chihuahua Min Pin mix. All right, so I'm gonna put a couple ladles of this in here. Maybe more than a couple. But let's start with that. So we'll start with 2. I'm just gonna fold it in with this spoon. I wish I should have had a spatula out, but it's okay. So you see that consistency through the bowl. That's what we're looking for. Okay, and then I'm gonna just repeat that. So here we go. I'm gonna show a quick close-up of what that looks like, and then we have one more very southern stage. Oops, a little bit of a mess there. Very southern thing to do. Okay, so here's our mixture. See how everything is even? Yeah, it's just about, I think a good casserole is about letting everything just be evenly combined. It's very creamy, and that's what we want. Okay. But what I'm gonna do, this is what Miss Allen used to do, my friend Evelyn's mother. And my mom had never did this kind of stuff, and I loved it. So these are just regular traditional butter crackers, and I'm just gonna break them up and put them in the casserole. Now, if you don't want to do this, you certainly don't have to, but I am telling you, this is delicious. Yes, so you just get that little crunch, that little bite, and if you notice, we haven't really salted except that one time. And this is one of the reasons why. I know the cheese has salt in it. I know that the crackers have salt in it, so we don't need to really add a lot of salt. Okay, last thing. I love pepper, fresh ground pepper in this recipe. And I'm gonna just give it a good go. This is just a taste, so it just depends on what you like. Okay? Not too much, but it's really wonderful with the pork sausage and the cheese and the squash. It's really great. All right, so that's all beautifully mixed up. Now, moving on, I have my casserole. I am going to do just a little bit of butter, or you can do spray stick, whatever you prefer, but my butter's out and I'm just going to use it. It's not very much, okay? I'm not even using a full teaspoon, but get it all the way up to the edge. Now this one is going to bubble. So make sure that you don't fill it too high. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a mess in your oven. Or you can do that trick that we did with the cranberry, the pumpkin bread. You can put a cookie sheet or a catering sheet underneath it. All right. So I'm going to take this and spoon it in carefully. Don't want to lose anything. I'll probably fill it 2/3. And that'll be most of this. I'm going to put the rest in a freezer-safe Ziploc, because remember, I have to have leftovers. So I'll pull it out that next morning and just add it to my casserole to reheat. Here is the casserole. That looks really pretty. Here we go. Just give it a little shake. This is the consistency. Let me get in there for you. Oh, right. Let's get a picture of that. Post that on Facebook and Instagram. Okay. So once you take it out of the freezer, I'm going to freeze this. You would top it with a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese, or you can just top it with some more crackers. So that's what I'm actually going to do for this year. I'm going to just take this. This is like, what, 6 crackers? And I'm not going to break these up too much. I'm just going to break them up a little bit. I don't want them to be like, I want to be able to see them. That is a traditional way to do a Southern style casserole. So enjoy it. You're going to put it in the oven at 375. It's going to take about an hour to bake. If you have more things in your oven, if you have like 4 things going on in there, it's going to take a little bit longer. But you're really looking for it to be bubbling up and browning on the top, because everything in here is cooked. You're just trying to heat it up and get it all to marry together. Okay? So I hope you enjoy it. This is an old classic, And from my kitchen to yours, happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time.